back to medicine for these times. I'm here with my friend Wil Fisher. Thanks for being here, Wil. Good to
Thank
have you.
you. Such a pleasure.
This is fun. I met you, what was it, 2 years ago or two and a half?
Yeah.
Three?
So, yeah, maybe a little longer. Yeah, in Costa Rica.
God, when was that? I know, in Costa Rica. And then I've followed you ever since. I love your
Hmm.
content.
Hmm.
You're fun to interact with. You're just really like a light out there in the world.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I need some more interesting guests. And
Hmm.
also, don't tell anyone listening to this podcast. Sometimes I get really sick of talking about psychedelics, even though we will mention them today
Sure.
because we did meet at a medicine retreat.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, let's talk. Let's interview you because this is a whole different subject and
Hmm.
something new and interesting, at least to me, for the most part.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey into what you're up to now. You call yourself, I think, a queer spiritual guide coach, right?
Yeah. Spiritual
Yes.
life coach and retreat facilitator. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
And then when I met you, I remember you were telling me how you ran this retreat center and it was clothing
Hmm.
optional. And I was like, wow,
Hmm.
that sounds amazing. But tell
Hmm.
me, what brought you onto this path? And were you ever on that generic path of having a boring corporate job that you
Hmm.
hated? I always love to hear people's journeys, or you were just like, nah.
Yeah, no, not quite that. I've always walked a more unique path. As a kid, I was like reading The Prophet. I was reading like some like personal growth and spiritual books and really into that stuff. But my path was mostly focused on creativity. So I was like studying theater. I went to a boarding school for the arts, this really cool school in Idlewild in the mountains. And it was like all these students from all over the world just like focused on dancing and visual arts, and I was there for theater. And then I studied theater in Connecticut, moved to New York City, and quickly realized like I did not want to be an actor and try to make a career out of it. So I got into the nonprofit sector, and so I was serving the LGBTQ community. So I was helping mostly with a nonprofit that did housing for homeless gay youth. Meanwhile, I was like continuing my path of exploration. I ended up getting my master's in applied theater, which was kind of like bringing those worlds together. So it was like, how can I use theater to help create conversations, to help communities in various ways, to help bring more awareness and to inspire change. And then, yeah, I mean, I went deeper into my path of self-awareness and spirituality. I think my introduction really was Landmark Forum, which is, kind of like the McDonald's of self-growth. For a lot of people, it's like quick, it's fast, it's accessible. But I did the full curriculum. I did like the most queer final project ever that was like, yeah, scandalous, but fabulous. And
Wait, were you in Landmark in New York City?
yeah. Hmm.
What years were you there? Because I
Oh
did the
geez.
whole.
I would guess that would have been like 2010 or something.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I did the whole entire curriculum in pretty much almost every class they had for years.
Amazing. In
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe we were in that building together at the same time. It's very possible.
So funny. So funny.
That's awesome.
Wait, what was
Yeah,
your biggest queer
okay.
project ever?
Yeah, so my what is the project called? What do you
Oh
call
yeah,
that
the
again? SELP?
leadership. Yeah, it was like the leadership project where
Yeah, yeah.
you're supposed to show that you can lead something, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then you kind of like have to give it over to a different leader like halfway through to like take your ego out. So mine was a tribute to this person named Harry Hay, who is credited as one of the founders of the Radical Fairy movement, which is a longer story, which I can get into. But so it was approaching an anniversary. And so we did this event called Harry Hay Days, where we were honoring him and honoring the Radical Fairy movement. And there was like multiple events, which culminated in a big party that was a benefit for a Radical Fairy Sanctuary in Vermont. And there was like drag performances and like a DJ, and people were all in crazy outfits, and we raised a ton of money, and it was just like super fun. It ended with like some orgy happening at the end. I was like, I bet
Yes.
there's not a lot of SELP projects that involve this much drag and wildness and ended with an orgy, but
Love it. Wait, can you tell me more about what the radical fairy is?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So, the radical fairy movement, yeah, it started with Harry Hay and other leaders, and of the like 60s into 70s. So, what was happening was that these gay rights leaders were campaigning for equal rights. Like, it's like, we want to be equal to straight people. Like, we want to have the same rights as them. But then they started thinking about that idea and they said, well, I don't know. Do we actually want to be so homogenized? Do we want to like move into this heteronormative culture by campaigning for equal rights? What if we create something totally new, totally fresh? And so the idea was to reject that heteronormative path and instead come together in these radical fairy sanctuaries at these gatherings and explore new ways of being together. And so it was very like Burning Man adjacent. So you'd come together. There was like a no one turned away for lack of funds policy. It was all, everyone would come together and cook together, and people would do pop up workshops. And there was like sex magic and radical self expression, a lot of drag, but like really wild drag, like creature drag, and you just gender fuck drag. And it would happen typically in these beautiful rural locations in Tennessee, in Vermont, in places where you wouldn't necessarily see a big group of gay people come together, queer people come together. Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. I'm very active today still with a fairy sanctuary in Vermont where we put on a play every year for llamas. So a lot of it's connected to pagan, like earth-based rituals too. So there's like a Beltane ritual, and this sanctuary focuses on a llamas ritual where we put on a piece of theater ritual, like a show, and it's always super witchy and fun. Yeah.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
sorry we got sidelines on your
Oh yeah, no,
bio,
I
but
love I love that subject. I talk to a lot of people about the fairy movement on my podcast, and a lot of queer folks don't know about it too, or gay folks don't
yeah.
know about the radical fairies. So
And that's like
yeah.
in my neck of the woods too, kind of
Uh-huh.
not
Yeah.
far from me.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So then I'm curious, like when you were entering in the landmark, were you kind of already on a spiritual path, or was that a big part of your like large awakening that you had?
Yeah,
And
well, interestingly,
did you get sucked in a landmark by someone that recruited you?
yeah, I did totally, yeah. But I would say landmark, what it opened up for me was this realization that I got to design my life the way I wanted it. And so
Totally.
like shortly after my first weekend, I quit my job and became a consultant for the nonprofit I was working for and just started like living a life that was more tailored and aligned to who I am. But I would say that it's funny that we started chatting about the radical fairies because in a way that was my re-entry into spirituality because when I came out as a gay man, kind of rejected organized religion, and
Mhm.
and that was kind of all I knew in terms of spirituality. It was organized religion, and I was like, you know what, I'm good. Like I don't need to be oppressed by these major religions. And so, and I was, as a lot of gay men tend to do, like living a more debaucherous lifestyle, as I was like coming into myself and like, fuck it, I can have sex and go to parties and do whatever I want to do. And then I discovered the radical fairies, and what I discovered in that was that there was a different form of spirituality. So I attended this big pagan Beltane ritual, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what feels exciting. This is what my heart is calling me into. And I have some Native American ancestry too, so earth-based stuff is like very up my alley. And yeah, and so that is what really called me back into a connection with spirit, was realizing that I could do it in this more earth-based way.
Yeah. That's incredible because I know a lot of us go through that journey of rejecting. I mean, I was
Hmm.
raised Christian and a certain religion, and then you have some trauma around it and then rejected it and then eventually came back around to a different perspective,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, there's something there, but it's not that, dogma that was
Hmm.
associated with it.
Yeah, my
Um,
boyfriend and I now
yeah.
we attend a Christian church. It's like a mystic lens Christianity.
Ooh.
It's super woo-woo. There's like a sound bath at the beginning. There's Palo Santo burning, and it's like looking at the Bible, but not so like literal, like looking at it through this metaphor and like honoring
Ooh,
Jesus, but
yeah,
recognizing that, Buddha was cool too. And
yeah,
like there's other, beautiful learnings from other religions too that can help us
amazing.
connect with spirituality.
Incredible. And then can we name what is you have a kind of a playa name, but it's probably not
Oh,
from the playa, it's from maybe a fairy
well, yeah, so
gathering.
part of the radical fairies is naming. Yeah, so we have fairy names. They tend to be a lot of them are like crunchy, like pussy willow or like, butterfly or something. But then some of them are more silly. Like I know this fairy named Ask Me Nicely. So you
Mm.
ask him, what's his name? And he's like, Ask me nicely. You're like, well, what is your name, please? And he's like, Ask me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My full name is I am Sylvia Will Gather Rainbow. And it's kind of a long name, but it's like Sylvia was my drag name, Sylvia London. Gather was my fairy name. I am came through this combo rites of passage ritual. Rainbow came through this Native American dance ritual. So it all kind of came together to this sentence. So yeah.
Yeah, and when I met you and you first said that, I just saw the embodiment of that name big time.
Mm,
And even just now when you say it, it's like, oh, like I really feel you in that name. That's a
mm,
big one. Beautiful.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, it meant something to me. I think it was at that sit in Costa Rica where I first brought that name into that circle, and it felt a little vulnerable because most people were just sharing their names. And I was like, you know what? With this circle, I feel safe enough to bring this name and have, our medicine person like call me by that name, when we drank the tea. And yeah, that felt really sacred and special to me.
So beautiful.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Well, so then now, you do this spiritually centered life coaching.
Hmm.
Um, tell me more about how, like a lot of us, you probably like fell into it or
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, did you create it? How did this come about? And then, you also have a podcast and what is your specialty? Is it people going through like the beginning of their spiritual path? Is it people that are just lost souls in life? Yeah, tell us
Hmm.
a little more about your
Yeah,
work.
so I do support some folks who are interested in connecting more with their spirituality and uncertain about how to access it, and also dealing with some of the wounds that we've already addressed, especially gay men who have these religious wounds and have a lot of baggage around that's connected to spirituality because it's association with religion. So that is certainly one of the things that I support folks in. But honestly, there's so many different areas that I support folks in. I just bring some spiritual practices and principles into my work as a life coach, and do it at the level that the person is comfortable with and desiring. Because I do also coach corporate folks, I do coach executives, and I kind of sneak in spiritual principles, but I'm not like praying with them at the start of a session or something like that. Whereas some clients want that. They want to really go there. But I really found my way into this path because I was serving as a nonprofit consultant so I mentioned I quit my job, and I was working at the time for this great organization that did housing for homeless queer youth. I quit that job, but stayed consulting for them and consulting for other nonprofits. And I was kind of like, maybe I'm ready to get out of New York City. I'd been there for like 15 years. I was like, as I'm thinking about the life I want to design, what do I want to do? I was like starting to flirt with the idea of moving back to California, or I didn't know what was going to happen next. And then these people invited me to come produce a queer music festival in the woods outside of Albany. So I went there. Yeah, it was this really fun, amazing festival that we put on as a benefit for their queer youth programming. So they brought me in, and I spent time at this retreat center, this gay retreat center. It's called Easton Mountain, and started spending time there as I'm producing this event for them. And so I had an opportunity to take this like tantric workshop, and I started to like learn more from the people who were coming to this retreat center. And I was like really falling in love with this work and this space. It was 180 acres. It was like such a contrast to my life in New York City. And so at the end of it, after we put on this event, the founder was like, "Hey, do you want to keep consulting for us from New York City?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to keep working with you guys, but I'd like one of these little cabins." And so they gave me one of these cabins to live at part time. So I'd go between my cabin there and then my place in Brooklyn every couple weeks. Then I started, taking all these workshops at the retreat center. And then I started offering workshops myself. I started producing retreats. Eventually, they invited me to serve as their executive director, at which point I left New York City completely and moved to the retreat center full time and really dove into this kind of work. And then I, was working with a life coach throughout a lot of this and realizing that this was maybe a path that I could take. I got trained up as a coach, and then I've been, creating my career ever since.
I love these stories when it's kind of like you were just following your bliss, following the poll. I know they're my favorite. I mean, honestly, they're the only ones I really trust too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, it's like spirit just took you in the direction where the joy and the energy, and like, oh, what if, like really getting
Mm,
curious, and it's so amazing to watch it unfold like that.
mm,
And it's funny because I don't know the world of like queer coaches. I have had clients that have worked with primarily, maybe gay women or polyamorous couples or
mm,
gay men, like kind of done some work in that, but it makes sense, right? You want someone who understands you, knows your
mm,
path. There's a certain level of, different approaches to life, the traumas,
mm,
the challenges that one faces. But
mhm,
I'm curious, in this world and the kind of clients you're working with, have there has over the last few years, like what are the themes that people are coming to you for? I'm always
mm,
curious. I've asked this for many years, by the way.
mm,
Because I always see like a shift in themes over years where it's like,
mm,
oh, maybe 5 years ago people were coming for this and now people are coming
mm,
for that. But I'm wondering
mm,
like what is going on out there in the world of gay men or gay
mm.
women, if you have some female clients, or
Sure,
non-binary, like what are
sure.
they coming with? Like what is the biggest gripe these days? I mean,
Yeah.
besides everything.
Yeah, and before I go there, yeah, you reflecting back the unique path that was unfolding and has continued to unfold for me. Yeah, it just gave me full body chills and reminded me of like a moment because the retreat center had a drag closet, and so drag is part of my path too. I've been a drag queen and love experimenting and exploring drag and using it as a access point for transformation and stepping into more power. And so I remember a point where I, as the executive director, was like using drag with some clients there and just like recognizing this moment of like, oh my God, like all these skill sets, all these experiences from my nonprofit experience to my drag to just being a gay man, all these things are like coalescing in this moment, where it's like, wow, I would have never imagined landing here. I could never picture this or imagine that this is even possible. And here I am in this unique, very unique role. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to say that about psychedelics. I'm like, I
Yeah.
was just the weird kid that did these at a young age. And I'm like, God, I never thought this would be integrated into my life's work. Like, geez, who
Like,
knew?
yeah, as like a leader, as a thought leader in this space. Yeah, when you were a kid, just kind of experimenting with them. Yeah, that's
And
so
then
cool.
probably like, I don't know about you, but, like kind of I mean, thankfully I got along with everyone, but I was always like the kind of the weird one,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
the what the fuck. I've had
Sure.
guys try to date me and be like, no, I can't handle that. I think you're a drug addict. And I'm like, really?
Mm.
Drinking ayahuasca a couple times a year? Okay. But
Hmm.
then it's like, well, hey, it's our life path. And if we follow that
Hmm.
joy, it's amazing how it really unfolds. It's like, I do
Hmm.
believe our souls are always pulling us in a certain direction. It's like, here's
Hmm.
what you're here for. And that's amazing, by the way, about
Hmm.
drag being a source of power and transformation. I'd never
Hmm.
thought about that, but that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and healing some of the wounds that a lot of gay men have around like femphobia, where they're afraid to express their femininity because of oppression, both from the from the straight world and from the gay world. So it's,
Mm.
yeah, drag is a powerful medicine, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, it's so about that, following your joy. It's like my vantage point is that God gave us our desires. Source Spirit gave us these desires because they are helping us figure out this highest path. And so it's our job to like get quiet and get clear about what those heart desires are, and then have the courage to take steps towards them, and then watch the unfolding happen. And, and it's like, there's a lot of distractions and times where we get off that path and get confused about what the true desire is. Sometimes, it's not as easy as maybe I just made it sound, but there is some simplicity. There is some power in the simplicity of it too. Like, follow your joy.
Well,
Yeah.
but so many people have trouble even accessing their own desires,
Hmm.
or like,
Hmm.
the programming that's keeping them from owning
Hmm.
their desires. And then the next layer of like, well, if I step towards that path of my desire, like, then what will happen? Like, I'm going to
Hmm.
lose all my money or lose my family or community or whatever, like some
Yes.
belief around like, what if? And
Yeah.
that is, I mean, do you run into that a lot with your clients or people that
Yes.
are?
So that can help me segue back to the question you asked, which was, yeah, what are some of the themes? Which it is about that. It's about having that self-love, right? Like really cultivating self-love, and self-worth, uh, in a way that you're able to have a foundation that is stable enough to see that truth, to see what my heart calling is, to see what alignment actually looks and feels like, right? And a lot of times that work for a lot of my clients is getting them to that foundation point of, I love myself, I am worthy of living a joyful, aligned life. And now that I know that, I can have clarity around what that might look like. And then, of course, from that point of clarity is the courage. Like, can you tap into the courage to move towards this? And then can you have the drive, discipline, motivation, all those things to keep moving on that path, and the resilience and strength. And, so it's supporting them first in that foundational self-love, self-worth piece, and then in that courageous step into the truth of who you are. And quite a lot of that is also around self-expression too, authenticity and self-expression. And I'd say that work comes up the most in my retreat stuff, where I'm helping men, LGBTQ men, really connect with their hearts, and then to connect with each other's hearts, and then from that foundation of love, express more of their truth. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're focusing on this, this group of gay men, especially, dealing with the authenticity and the self-expression. But I
Hmm.
find that it's weird, this world that we're in, like, we have the ability to be more expressed than ever on planet Earth, with the
Hmm.
communication, like, here we are. But then
Hmm.
so many people are just in constant fear of being themselves,
Hmm.
and it's this world of like having media and social media and just like being seen, and the
Hmm.
cameras are just so available, and then it's like, well, who am I, and then
Hmm.
seeing what other people are saying and trying to navigate that, and feeling like
Hmm.
just the pressures of like, okay, I have this community and friends and partners and
Hmm.
kids and whoever. Like, what do you find is in the way of people's authenticity and self-expression? Is it the
Hmm.
fear, or is it society, or is it, much deeper in the upbringing and the trauma of just
Hmm.
growing up knowing you were gay and maybe not being
Hmm.
accepted, and then you have to
Hmm.
navigate that, like,
Hmm.
or is it just, all of the above and the human condition?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first of all, the you're so right about the being seen piece. Like, it is complicated. It's like there's so much access to it, and then there's like this pressure around it to be seen at a certain level. And so it's like, I don't know. The question that comes up for me is like, what does being seen mean to you? I think it means something different for each person. And so to recognize that there is so much access to sharing ourselves with the world, more access than there ever has been. And with that access comes pressure. So, what feels aligned and right for you? And how can you be in good balance and in good relationship with that opportunity to be seen, And I do think that it is particularly challenging. There are particular challenges for queer folks who, as you mentioned, have been told that who they are in their essence is wrong. I mean, it's changing, obviously, we're in 2025, but when I was growing up in the, 80s, 90s, like there was very little queer representation, and there was a narrative that being gay was bad, being gay, queer was wrong, being gay meant that you would end up with HIV and AIDS. It was like very prevalent and was a really challenging thing to face. And so a lot of my clients and a lot of folks who grew up then and still even now, they do face that backlash of being raised in a world that has told them that who they are in their essence is wrong or bad. And so how can they be with that in a good way? And as I mentioned, many, like myself included, rebel. And so we're like, no, fuck that. I am gay and I'm going to have all this gay sex and I'm going to go to these gay parties and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And that's not really it either, right? So it's like, how do we find that balance of being true to who you are in a good way? And I want to also acknowledge that it's not just gay people who deal with this kind of challenge around programming. I mean, you mentioned yourself that there's been times where you felt like an outcast or different than the norm. And we all are victims of societal programming and the pressure to conform to what society says is a well-functioning, healthy, successful human being. And so I do think that in a way, queers are more inclined to face that, to see it, because we've been told that our lifestyle is wrong. And so there's a lot of queers who have been able to do that internal work and say, actually, this is how I want to express myself. And I think that there's a lot of straight people who have never had to do that, and to a detriment in a way, that it's like, because they are able to coast, they're able to like fit a mold that is acceptable. And so I do think that one of the things that queer folks can bring to the table is an invitation for all people to really analyze their programming, really look at it, like, what have I been told I am supposed to do, and what is the mold I've been told I'm supposed to fit into, and can I unpack that and start to see what is true for me?
Yeah. Yeah, that mold of what you're supposed to fit into. I mean, I'm curious, about your journey of coming out. Like,
Mm,
especially, I always think of family. So for me, it was, and I didn't even have to deal with coming out, but even coming out with, like launching my first business, which
uh-huh.
had nothing to do with psychedelics. Even that, like, I lost friends over, there were
Mm,
people criticizing me, some of the things that were said, it's like really wild when you
mm,
become more of your true self. It tends
mm,
to, activate those close, trustworthy friends around you. And,
mhm,
or even family members that think you're insane. I mean, my dad
mhm,
literally said something to me, like, I don't know how many days it was before he died, but on his deathbed,
mm.
told me to go get a job.
Oh my
And
gosh.
because I was going through, I know.
Mm.
And it was, by the way, it was a job that I really didn't want. He's like, just take it. And I was like, but
Oh
no. And of
man.
course I was like, should
Oh
I get
man.
this? My
Wow.
dying father told me to take some job that I hated. But I'm wondering about your own journey with this, because it is really deep, and it can,
Mm,
in the studies that I've been doing and just working with clients, it can haunt people for years. Like, their parent could have died 25 years ago, like my dad, and it's like the voice, it took 20, nearly 20 years to like unravel that voice and like
mm,
actually come into my own self and like, oh, okay, that was him. This is me.
mm.
But yeah, if you don't mind, can you share your story? Did you go through any of this Although you're from California, right? So maybe it's a
I'm from California, so
your
yeah, I
parents were a little
do.
more open.
Yes, yeah. My mom, especially a beacon of unconditional love.
Mm.
Sometimes maybe like too much, but that's another story. But my dad, that was more challenging because he is a pretty normative, like masculine, like baseball watching, fishing, sports kind of guy. And so it was challenging to not be the boy that he expected that he was having. I'm his only kid, and I wanted to go to art class and go to theater class, and he would have preferred if I was, going to baseball practice. And I tried, but I was just really, really bad, and I didn't like it. So it was challenging, and I have done some serious healing work around it. Actually, back in Costa Rica, so I there's a place that's called Casa now, with a Q, spelled with a Q, and it was before that it was called the Jungle Gayborhood. It's a
Yeah,
more
yeah. Oh, they
newish.
changed their name,
Yeah, they rebranded. Yeah, they're called Casa
but
with a
same
Q.
owner, right?
Yeah, same owner. This
Oh,
guy
okay.
Shelby, who's been on my
Yeah, I
podcast.
know about the neighborhood. Totally.
Yeah, they gave her it. It's beautiful. Oh my
I know.
goddess, it's so cool. So I
I've
went
heard.
there for a conscious kink retreat that a friend of mine was putting on. And I just felt called. I've never considered myself like super kinky or like really a big part of that world, but I really believed in this person who was producing it and hosting it and facilitating it. And I just felt this intuitive call to be there. And I really wanted to check out the Jungle Neighborhood too. So I went, and what was interesting was that the offering wasn't just these scenes, right? In kink, you do these like scenes where you have safe words and you like know who's in charge and who's, the whole thing. But there was an opportunity, an invitation to use the scenes to address old wounds. And we didn't even, it wasn't even a expectation that the scenes would be sexual. Like it could be completely non-sexual, but we were creating this very sacred space, ritual space together where we could explore these scenes. And what came through for me was that I had this childhood wound from my dad not fully loving and accepting and appreciating the gifts that I was bringing to the table, the passions and joys and places of passion and love that I was pursuing, right? That I was never really receiving that from him, and didn't receive support when I was getting bullied, right? That I wasn't able to share that with him, because my parents, when I was bullied for being gay when I was like 13, because I didn't want them to know that I was being bullied for being gay. And so in this really sacred, beautiful ritual space, I was able to work with the guy who was my kink scene partner, and he took on the role of my dad essentially, and we like replayed these scenarios where I was a little kid, like showing him my drawing of a rainbow, and he was like just loving me and accepting me so fully. And then we like fast forwarded to me as a teenager, like saying like I've been bullied, and him just like standing up for me and being there for me and loving me for who I am. And it was like game changing, like energetically game changing. And honestly has made it possible for me to be in my current relationship in a way that I would never have been able to in the past, because I'm more capable of receiving that kind of love that I hadn't received from my dad because of his own bullshit. He's a loving man. He meant well. He did his best, but he had his own bullshit that kept him from just fully loving this gay expression of his son. So yeah, I think I think that answers your question a little bit. Yeah, this piece around how to combat the programming, and the pressure to
Wow.
be something that you're not.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Oh, thank you for
Mm,
sharing that.
mm,
And yeah, I mean, these wounds run deep, and it's like if we don't bring it to the light and, like any kind of, the modalities like this, like really consciously work with it,
mhm,
it can creep up in so many ways, even these just subconscious ways where I mean, I've had clients that are in their 50s with a dead father, like telling me, well, I think my father's gonna not approve of this. And I'm like, wow,
wow.
it's like, but he's not
Mhm.
even here and you still have that running. And it's amazing how much that can really stop us. Um,
Absolutely.
Incredible. I'm curious, you do run retreats. Do you bring in like this kind of conscious kink type work, or what is it that you bring into your retreats?
Yeah, no, my work is so my retreat is called Awakened Hearts, and it is very, very heart-centered work that is all about us unshedding the pieces that are keeping us from connecting to our hearts and removing those walls, connecting to each other's hearts and our own, and just creating this really beautiful, heart-centered, loving space. And so, in order to do that, one of the agreements, which is very different from a lot of gay men's retreats, one of the agreements is no sex with self or with each other. It's like totally off the table. It's like nobody's hooking up. So that when we're like interacting and really having this deep dialogue, we're not thinking in the back of my head, like, oh, if I say this, am I likely to sleep with him or not? So we really take that off the table. No drugs, no alcohol, no sex. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful work, and I've seen men just blossom in such incredible ways. And these groups, it's a smaller group, usually like 12. They create such deep bonds, such deep loving bonds in a very short amount of time. And yeah, it's just my greatest joy is to bring this through. And what I'm working in the, since this is a podcast focused on psychedelics. My next path, and this is the first time I'm sharing about this publicly, but I'm starting to explore working with MDMA and to do that on the one-on-one level and then with in group settings as well. And so I'm working with a facilitator right now in training and doing my own work with MDMA-assisted therapy, which has been so epic and amazing. And eventually I imagine myself bringing some of that medicine into these group settings as well, because my work is all about heart space, and so that medicine happens to help with that.
Great fit for that medicine.
Mm.
By the way, I really I appreciate you setting those boundaries. I think
Hmm.
just even sometimes even as someone who's been on a lot of retreats in the world over the years, even with the medicine work where everybody knows it's supposed to be no sex, and but even then I've seen, people like hit it off or people start to hit on each other. And I always wonder if there was a really sacred boundary set at the beginning where it's like, look, we're here to do our work. Yeah, if you connect with someone, okay, like wait, just give it the week or the 5 days or whatever it is. I feel like it would take some pressure off where then there could be a deepening, because even, I mean, I know as someone who's been on a retreat where I'm like, oh, okay, there's a cute guy and like he's flirting
Hmm.
with me, and and it's like, oh, and then I go to share and it's like, well, I'm going to limit what I share because I don't want to oust myself. And it's
Totally.
interesting. I did this actually a few months ago. I was in a particular sharing circle and there was
Mm.
kind of a similar thing that came up. And I was like, you know what? Normally I would never share this in front of a cute guy that I just met.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have to just be my fullest self. But I think,
Mm.
and so I have no problem doing it now. But I think a lot of
Hmm.
people are really hesitant. So I really appreciate that boundary of, especially even, by the way, and with self, like
Yeah. Yeah.
clear vessels for just this retreat.
Yeah, I agree. And I do see in medicine spaces, it's often kind of just like in an email or something, but to actually maybe have a conversation about it, like this is the agreement and this is why. And then I've had some folks feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to do your retreat because I'm feeling like inhibited. I'm feeling like you're pushing that on me. And I don't know, there's, especially for gay men who have been told that being sexual is wrong, and now I'm telling them they can't do it. It triggers stuff, and so then I can talk to them about that. And typically that person at the end of the week is like, oh my gosh, this was so helpful, I'm so grateful for that. And then even if it's like coming up for folks, if there's issues coming up around it during the retreat to be able to talk about that as a group. Like, I'm having a hard time like getting rid of those sexual thoughts. I'm having a hard time not sexualizing people. Like, that's something for us to look at, you know?
Huge. Yeah,
Mm.
that can be very healing, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, this is really
Mhm.
interesting also bringing MDMA in, because of course, this is a thing, as everybody knows. I made a joke recently. I was like, you could fall in love with anyone on MDMA. I mean, really, there is a certain level of like really having to watch that because there's
Mhm.
also such an opportunity for, this heart medicine, for these openings,
Mhm.
for, like even that radical transparency of naming, like,
Mhm.
like I have a crush on you across the room and I feel a little
Mhm.
vulnerable sharing about this in front of you,
Mhm.
or like I have a
Mhm.
hard time, not staring at you and wanting to jump
Mhm.
you. Um,
Mhm.
Imagine the openings that that could provide for a whole next level of
Mhm.
healing for everybody. Um,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
especially with MDMA, it's very interesting to watch because I do believe in this medicine. I find it to be extremely helpful, and I also have
Mm.
seen kind of like the dark side of it already.
Mm.
Like I can name names and multiple people where it's like, and especially if they're not licensed therapists, which
Mhm.
few to no one is yet because
Sure.
it's technically
Mhm.
not there yet.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
even then, it's like, well, where's the boundary around transference and transgressions, or like
Mhm.
radical self-expression versus holding a really tight container with boundaries. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I've always wondered, like, yeah, I mean, I think maybe if people want to have a sex party that's intentional with
Mhm.
MDMA, and that's like there's clear boundaries around like
Mhm.
here's what you're entering into. But if it's kind of like
Mhm.
I've been invited to some of these like very loosey goosey, like
Mhm.
we're having an MDMA group, and I'm like, centered around what? And they're like, just
Mhm.
take an MDMA, and I'm like, oh well, I know how that could go. Yeah, that could go in.
Mhm.
I mean, it could go in any direction, but I also know
Sure.
like like unless you're holding a clear boundary.
Mhm.
But yeah, have you thought about that or like experienced this with this medicine or any
Well,
medicines?
in the beginning of my journey into this space, and I will say that there is a time and place for people, a group of friends to take some MDMA and hang out and have some casual whatever and allow it to unfold the way that it unfolds. And that is not the work that I'm interested in offering, right? So I know how important having clear boundaries and creating a really safe structure is without the MDMA. I mean, I've seen even with this agreement that there's no sex and there's no drugs and there's no alcohol and we're spending 3 days together, how it can get complicated and emotional, and it's navigating heart space can be really high stakes around the potential harm and the potential dramas that might unfold. And so, bringing medicine into it ups the ante. And so, I feel like a super clean, super clear, super yeah, like structured. I mean, of course there's flow within the structure, but having structure and having agreements and having boundaries is completely essential for that kind of work. And I think I'll learn that in even deeper ways as I keep training. But I know how important it is for me in non-medicine space when I'm working in matters of the heart. And so I can only foresee that it's going to be even more essential.
Yeah. I mean, I keep waiting to hear the stories and we'll see. But it's a fine line with all these medicines. Like they're all so
Mhm.
amazing and great and powerful and healing. And then
Mhm.
yeah, there's like crazy, crazy shit that's been happening out there, and it's a weird world,
Mhm.
and it's also the Wild West.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
love that there's this intention, and also for a group of gay men to go into this and have the same intention to open the heart and do this healing
Mhm.
work in this kind of container. That's where it's like again, I'm not one to say like, oh, medicines can only be used on like for healing reasons, but
Mhm.
some of these sloppy containers have been they start to actually
Mhm.
feel very like unsafe,
Yeah.
and I've heard it's one of those medicines where I didn't think anything could ever go wrong. And wow, I have
Mm,
heard some stories, it's like people
mm,
having bad experiences. And I'm like, really, with
mhm.
MDMA? But if you're not feeling safe and
Yeah.
trusting and held, or there's not a clear,
Mm,
consent,
mm.
anything can go wrong. It's a
Absolutely. And I'll just
difficult.
share, I mean, me experiencing it in this therapeutic context has changed my understanding of the medicine completely because I will be, I mean, it's challenging. Like that when I'm doing it in this format and I'm working with a very, very talented therapist, I will cry. I will go into my fear. I will go into my anger. I mean, there's a lot of opening for going into these more challenging emotions and releasing stuff that's stuck inside us. And it's pretty unpleasant, dude. It is not, my memories of going to raves and just like smiling and chewing gum and bouncing around. It is so not that, right? It's a powerful medicine that is not just hearts, rainbows, and unicorns. And so we need to respect it and honor it and use it in good ways towards the healing and transformation that it is offering us if we decide to receive it in that way.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's so funny because I'm like, people forget that it brings up everything, right?
Yeah.
And then there's, something that I experienced actually just a few months ago, which it was beautiful, but it was like, oh my God, sometimes it's actually hard to even hold those positive feelings. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, that's
Oh
almost
yeah.
too much to feel my
Yeah.
heart open like that. Has that come up
Yeah.
for a lot of men that you work with?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in general, in this kind of work, psychedelic assisted or not, it's this kind of dance of expansion and contraction, And so I think part of it is helping them have awareness that that's very possible. And so that when they do get to this like super hard, expansive space, and then they're like, oh my God, this feels really uncomfortable. And maybe I'm not safe to be here. It's likely that they will have these moments of contraction and that that's okay. And to be gentle and compassionate with themselves through that process and know that it's also possible to come back into expansion. And one of the things that one of my teachers taught me that I really love is upgrading your open heartedness or closed heartedness from a on off switch to a dimmer switch
Ooh.
so that we don't have to just be like fully feeling all the love and I love my everything and everyone and but we get to decide like how safe do I feel in this moment? And based on that level of safety, how willing am I to move that lever, that dimmer switch up into more open heartedness? My teacher, Joe Weston, taught me that model. And that's been really helpful for folks to navigate that so that you realize that you can do what is working for you in that moment, what feels safe and manageable.
Mm, that's a beautiful one. I love that. Thank you. Who
Mm.
is it? Joel? Joel?
Joe
Joel.
Weston. Yeah, he's a
Beautiful.
brilliant guy. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Aw. Thank you so much. So,
Mm.
Will, tell me, I know you have a podcast. I know you offer coaching.
Mm.
Um, what is next for you? Like, what do you want to bring to your business in the next like year? I know you just mentioned, bringing in the this beautiful heart medicine, but
Mm.
anything on the forefronts of creation for you?
Yeah, so thanks for shouting those things out. My podcast is Queerly Beloved. I'm super excited to have you on there. I talk about queerness and spirituality and the intersection and all things woo woo. Yeah, I've got my retreats, Awaken Hearts, my coaching practice, Willfully Living, and then the medicine work. I don't even know the timeline on it, but it's in the works. I'm also working on a book that's focused on play. So one of the medicines that I love the most is play. And so it's looking at the energy of play as a tool and a medicine for healing and transformation and growth. And so that's something that I've been working on. And meanwhile, I'm also starting to offer workshops for folks to come, or play shops, we can call them, where folks are getting to explore their relationship with play and to find ways to access it and see what the benefits and values of being in that playful spirit and energy can bring them. Just
Please,
super
more
fun.
play. Oh, on the
Yeah, and
planet.
I could see some like MDMA working with that as well, like really creating structures and facilitated activities where I'm supporting folks to just like fucking play.
Oh my God, sign me up. That sounds fun. It's funny. I was just talking to a client about that right before our call
Mm,
about like the future, and it's like
mm.
music, singing, play,
Yes.
art,
Yes.
creativity. It's like
Hmm.
body, like moving. And
Yes.
it's just our world is full of so much stuck energy
Hmm.
and I know I've had to assign this to clients for years. Like it's not even a huge part of what I do, but very
Hmm.
often I'm like, okay, get off of the technology, go
Hmm.
for like a walk and talk to a tree and just
Yes.
go build something out of rocks, or like
Yes.
whatever it is. Go like
Hmm.
pick a flower and make a mandala, or,
I
just
love that.
anything that gets you out of the same old. And
Hmm.
it's very interesting how much resistance comes up around a lot of the play.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
worked with an executive the other year, and it was like, there was a desire to do more art, and it was like, okay, there's classes I can take, there's this, and it was like, it literally became like, oh, I'm just too busy. Like, but too
Hmm.
busy with what? Oh, too busy answering emails, and it's like,
Hmm.
this is what our world has come to, and
Hmm.
I feel like it's an antidote for so much. So I'm really excited. Are you
Hmm.
literally writing this book? Because wow, I'm like, I have a book in me somewhere for the last few years, but
Yes, and
oh,
it's a slow
it's
process.
hard.
I
I
mean, I
know.
wrote a autobiographical solo show, and it took like years and years and years. This book, similarly, it's like, I mean, I'm glad that I'm speaking about it to you right now publicly because it's going to light some more fire under my ass so that I'll be working on it more consistently because it's one of those things where I'm like motivated and then I write and then I put it away for months and then I
Yeah.
write some more. But, it's a fun book and I'm enjoying the process of exploring it and creating it. Yeah.
Fun. Well,
Hmm.
I'm so glad you're doing it. And yeah, I hear you. I know the book has been in my head, and then I'm like, oh, one of these days I'll do it, but then I
Do
have
you
to
know
take
what
a.
the focus is yet?
I did, I don't
Hmm.
know. I always wonder if that'll change if and when I
Sure.
do it. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't even know how people do this. I think it would take me years to do because it's like the creative spurts, or I
Hmm.
do a full on sabbatical where I
Yeah.
go rent my friend's house in Costa Rica that she's offered me 1,000 times. She's like, Beth, just come here and write your book. And I'm like, well, it would be
Yes.
good because there's not much else to do where she lives.
Yes. That's where I got the most work done was when I spent a month in Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. I was like all about it. And that
Yeah.
is how I found to find the best way to be productive with creative projects. Like get into someplace beautiful with lots of nature and lots of inspiration and less distractions.
Less distraction. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's so funny that we live in this world where it's like, oh my God, what is it? I mean, I live in the country, not even in a city or, near much of anything. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
there's still like distraction around everywhere. There's always a way to
Uh-huh.
distract. I mean, this is
Uh-huh.
again why I think we need more play in our world. And we'll see. I mean,
Hmm.
I do believe the future is going to be more of this,
Oh
more of
yeah.
the play and the movement and the singing and the arts
Hmm.
and I don't
Just
know.
enjoying life, like following that
Yeah.
joy, back to that theme. It's like, how can we just enjoy our time in these bodies on this planet? Like, how can we be in that together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not sitting in traffic on the way to the office and back and
Yeah, and
then
staring at computers and phones all day. No, no.
oh my God. Well, it was so fun to have you here.
Oh,
I
I'm
want to
so
see,
glad we
it's
did
so funny.
this.
I've never seen
Hmm.
pictures of you in drag. I want to look them up.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll send you my Facebook page for Sylvia London. You can check her out. Yeah.
Ooh, love it.
Yay. So much joy, so much fun. Thank you so much. It's
I
been
knew
a
you would be
total honor
fun.
and
It's
pleasure.
it's so funny. I got so many responses and I'm like, Will's gonna be a fun interview. Plus, I haven't
Yay.
seen you
Thank
in a
you.
while, so
Yeah, no, it's so great to see you.
we'll
All
have to
right.
meet
So
up
much
in
love to
Costa
you. I can't wait
Rica.
to bring you on my show soon. All right.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.